Hello, you're listening to an interview with CRTV White House correspondent John Miller from episode 22 of the Catholic Vote Radio Hour. Like and subscribe to the Catholic Vote Radio Hour on YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play, and follow us at Catholic Vote on Facebook and Twitter. I'm your host, Stephen Harriott. And now I'm joined by John Miller, the very talented and entertaining host of the White House Brief at CRTV. He is CRTV's White House correspondent. First of all, thank you very much for joining us, John.
Thanks for having me on, Stephen. How you doing?
I'm trying to be good, hoping for presents next Christmas. And I was really delighted to see your coverage in the last week of everything surrounding the Olympics and the American media's response to the Olympics. First of all, I wanted to give you a chance to vent because I didn't feel like you got all of your aggravation out on your show. So how did this make you feel, John?
So I got a response. A viewer wrote into me and they said, you know, you're making good points here, but you're just a little too passionate. And I honestly, I don't know how you can cover this subject without being infuriated by it. Because here we have the dictator, Kim Jong-un, his little sister. Her name is Yo Jong. And the media is just dazzled by her. And we've had some people come around. We've had people, Vice Magazine, BuzzFeed has said, let's not praise this person because she's the director of propaganda for an evil dictatorship. Maybe we do not praise her as glamorous, as giving dazzling side-eye. Let's not do this for a dictator. But I was physically sickened when I saw the media's attempts. They romanticized her role. They romanticized what she's doing over there and how she's handling the media and her quote-unquote diplomacy, all the while slamming our guy, Mike Pence, who's over there representing the United States, for not, I think they said he missed his opportunity. CNN said Mike Pence, his Olympic trip is a missed opportunity. Sorry, but we don't do diplomacy with people who publicly execute their citizens in public spectacles, enslave their own citizens, put their political dissidents in prison camps, subject their people to firing squads, deny them basic rights, deny them internet, and kill our people. They killed, I don't care what anyone says, they killed Otto Warmbier, and they are pointing their nukes at us. So I think when it comes to their representative, Kim Yo Jong at the Olympics, maybe let's not give her too much positive coverage. Can we agree on that?
Right. And I think that most people do agree. By the way, I still want you to tell us how you really feel, John, because I'm not sure.
I'm not good at that. I'm a little shy.
No, but I think that's the thing that I'm focusing on lately is everyone would agree with you, John, and they would say, what is wrong with the people to the left of you? Most voters I'm talking about, so this has implications for future elections, but also just in general in the culture wars, what is happening here is that what is called the alt-left,
right?
It's become so mainstream that it's basically these are the people at the helm of most leftist media outlets and even of the Democratic Party. You hear crazy stuff like this all the time. The Onion doesn't have any reason to exist anymore.
No, they do not.
One of the main reasons I'm mad, I was actually saying recently, is this has put Fred Armisen and Carrie Brownstein out of work. That's probably why they canceled Portlandia, and it was one of my favorite shows, is that there's no air between reality and satire on the left anymore.
No, there's not. And to be honest, you don't know when you are reading satire. You always have to check the masthead because you're like, am I reading satire? Am I reading a serious article here?
Right. So with that happening, I'm wondering how many people will be alienated by this. And let me just give you a quick example. Of course, while this was going on, a few reporters at BuzzFeed and, of course, Jake Tapper responded to it. And they were basically saying, please, I refuse to embarrass myself. I will not participate in this. What do you think the implications for the future could be? Could we expect to, Jake Tapper, is he going to attend the March for Life in 2025? Is he going to be driven just to get away from this? What do you think? The problem is that Jake Tapper reliably, when the left just goes full bore insanity, he usually can come to reason. But then when it comes back to conservative things, he's obviously not a conservative, but things that are moderate or even a little bit to the right of center, he always flops back over to the left. So I don't think we can expect to see Jake Tapper at the March for Life. I do think that you have Vice, who is not exactly a moderate publication, BuzzFeed, who I think you can also call reliably leftist, as you said, they are saying, okay, can we not get involved in this? Can we not? BuzzFeed calling her a garbage monster. I think when you have them saying that this is unacceptable, it gives me hope for society because at some points I just think, have we completely gone? And I think you're at the point also where we've become so PC in our culture, Stephen, that a lot of times we no longer recognize true evil because we're not allowed to call evil evil. We're not allowed to label it as evil. It's just another point of view, obviously, unless you're conservative and then you're allowed to be called evil. But I think that this relativism is what's leading to the deterioration of the country, the deterioration of society. And so when I see people draw the line and say, no, we're not going to go here. We're not going to praise evil dictatorships who starve their citizens, who kill their own citizens, and who kill our citizens like Otto Warmbier, then I'm hopeful that we have a chance in this race.
case.
Right. Well, I think honest people are feeling alienated. People who have basic reasoning skills. I've been intrigued, for instance, by all of the talk about the alt-right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's roughly call it Nazi sympathizers.
Sure.
It is rightly ruinous to one's own career to be a Nazi sympathizer.
Sure.
And that's a good thing.
Yes.
And it's also, by that very same token, I'm not very afraid of the alt-right overtaking society, because I know that rightly we've gotten to the point where you can't get a job in any influential place while being a Nazi sympathizer.
Right.
But what worries me is that North Korea's ideology, which is just as murderous, in fact, probably the most mass murderous ideology in human history,
Sure.
there's no social sanction against it.
No.
So I worry it's praised by mainstream figures in the media, but also at college campuses and in Hollywood and so forth. So when I look at the two and I see one of them is much more of a live threat, it just makes me kind of get tired of all of the talk about, we can name evils, but only evils that aren't really a live threat. And then the ones that are really a live threat, we kind of pander to. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, absolutely. And I'm hopeful when I see, again, BuzzFeed labeling this as evil. I do think that the left has a really nasty habit of propping up evil communist dictatorships. They love Mao. They love, even in Russia, but they love in Venezuela, you see, they're always propping up the dictator. And I think at the end of the day, they do not connect the mass murders that happen under communism to the ideology of communism. For some reason, they glamorize it in a way that I've never quite been able to understand. But I think it is a threat to the extent that they believe that the communist regimes are somehow better to their people than our leader is here, than our president is here. And for some reason, they have such a hatred for Trump that they see communism as some better alternative. To be honest, though, I don't quite understand the ideology behind glamorizing and holding up communism other than an affection with big government. So if you're looking for an answer as to why they seem to have a sympathy towards that ideology, I don't know if I can give you one.
I think I might have an idea. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Sure.
They hate the West. They hate the Anglo-American tradition. It was funny, a Chelsea handler today, some figure in the Trump administration mentioned the Anglo-American heritage, and she was triggered and she said, "Oh my goodness, this person should be fired immediately." And I was like, people who don't know what Anglo-American is shouldn't be allowed to call political shots.
Well, I think that's for all of Chelsea handlers. I think it was Jeff Sessions yesterday said that.
That's right.
And it's fascinating because they're able to ignore the atrocities just because, as you said, the enemy of my enemy is their friend in this case. And so I think that what they do is they block it all out of memory.
Right. Well, speaking of memory, one last thing I wanted to ask. Do you see any parallels between what's going on here and Walter Duranty's treatment of the USSR from the New York Times?
I do believe that a lot of these people will look back and they will see that they're on the wrong side of history. And I just wonder how far down the line, do we have to have North Korea actually bombing the United States, or do we actually have to have an actual nuclear threat to have the people who kind of flirt with praising this regime and other regimes? Do we have to have an existential crisis for them to open their eyes and say, whoa, I'm really on the wrong side of this?
Right, right. Well, thank you for your very saddening but passionate commentary, John. It's been great to have you on. And listeners, do follow John's work. John Miller is the White House correspondent for CRTV, and you can watch his show, The White House Brief, from CRTV, which is almost as good as the Capitol Hill Brief with Nate Madden, which is almost as good as Catholic Vote Radio Hour.
I'll let him know that I'm better. No.
Yeah, keep the feud going. Yep. Competition is healthy. Thanks again, John, for coming on. I hope to have you on again soon.
Thanks, Stephen. I'll talk to you later.
Well, thanks for listening to this interview from episode 22 of the Catholic Vote Radio Hour. Again, you can like and subscribe to the Catholic Vote Radio Hour on YouTube, iTunes, and Google Play, and don't miss the rest of this episode coming out Friday. I'm your host, Stephen Harriott. On your